Hello my friend, and welcome back to the YouTube channel. On today's video, I'm going to be just taking you through a brief little video on how I edit. I've had some questions come across Instagram, how I finish my photos and all that good stuff. And so I figured what better time than to show you how I do that, because Archipelago Presets just gave me a new set to try called Light and Ochre, and I am obsessed. And so what you're about to see is probably the fastest quote-unquote editing tutorial you've ever experienced, because it really, for me, is usually just one click, a few tiny adjustments, and that's about it. So I won't take up too much of your time, but I want to go through some of the cool things that this newest preset pack from Archipelago has to offer. I've been a user of Archipelago presets for, well, since I used to call them Archipelago. No, Archipelago. What did I used to call them? I used to mess up their name. And then in like 2017 or 2018, I learned the actual way to say it, which is Archipelago. And now I am able to say that. So I am, over time, it was inevitable that I did become an ambassador for Archipelago presets, because that is what I use on 98% of my work. Now, you will see I am a preset hoarder. I love to try out new presets, but not every preset feels right for the type of work that I want to create or the consistency that I like. Sometimes other presets work well for the story I'm trying to tell, but for consistency in my work, I usually will rely on the good old Archipelago presets. They have the right amount of grain, the right amount of contrast, I guess you would say, and they work with the way that I like my photos. Now, I do want to share a bit of a story that I found very interesting. I have a friend of mine who is also a photographer, and she's like, no matter how many times I try to use Archipelago presets, I just don't like the way that they look. They just don't look good with my work. And I was like, that's totally fair, because there are other presets I've tried with my work, and I'm like, I don't know, man. I don't really like the way this looks. But then I had hired her to do some photography for me. So she was still using her photography skills, the way that she sees the world, and photographing my body image bootcamp retreat. But then I was going to edit them. So I received her images and I edited them, obviously, with Archipelago presets. And she was like, those look amazing. Like, what did you use to edit those? And I was like, Archipelago presets. And it got me thinking that I think sometimes when we look at other people's work, because that was work that was to represent me, seeing those images edited with the presets that I normally edit my photos made sense, even though she was the one to take the photo. But when she creates work for herself, or from her point of view for a client or whatever, she has a very specific vision on what that outcome is going to look like, and the presets maybe just don't help that to happen. And so if you do go ahead and you're like, oh, I love the way Terry's work looks with these presets, I want to give them a try, and you do give them a try, awesome. If for some reason you're still like, I don't know why I don't like it with my work, it might just be that you like it because it's my work, if that makes sense. You like the way the preset looks because it's my work, and that's the way you've come to know me. Because there are other times I've tried to recreate presets that a lot of photographers that I love their work, and I did a pretty good job of creating presets pretty close to the way their work looks, but I didn't like it because that wasn't my work. That isn't how I saw the scene that I was creating, or it just didn't fit right with what I was trying to do. So all that to say, give the presets a try if you want to, but if they don't work, it doesn't mean that something's wrong with the preset or something's wrong with your work. It just means that that particular preset is maybe not helping you get the outcome that you actually want to create with that image. Okay, that's all it means. Nothing more, nothing less. So right now I'm currently hovered over the LXC presets. I don't know if these ones are still accessible through Archipelago, but this was my gateway drug to Archipelago presets, if I'm being honest. Back when I don't even know if it was Archipelago that had these presets, but this was the first time, the first set of presets that I used. And to be honest, I still love like the contrast. I love that it keeps the blues, all that good stuff. But the ones we're going to be playing with today are going to be the light and ochre set that I was at down here. And oh, here's the Nomad. So this was my second. These were also my next favorite ones because they upped the grain a little bit to give it kind of that film aesthetic. Let me see if I can. You can see the nice fine grain there. I love that look. I love that with my work. That type of grain. Look at the hair, just doing her thing. Anyways, and so after I stopped using the LXC presets, I moved over to Nomad after that for the majority of my work, for client work and everything in between, and then just played within those for a while. So now we're going to try out this new series called Light and Ochre. Let me reset this guy back. So let's just pop one on and see what it looks like. Okay, so now I want to say, obviously, this warmed everything up, took the blues away and all that good stuff. But let me show you a really cool aspect that they were telling me about. So let me see. What I'm looking for when I'm applying this particular part of the light and ochre presets is my skin tones, because obviously I shoot or photograph a lot of skin. So I want to try to find one that creates the skin the way that I like it, luminous, if you will. So I'm going to go with LNO2. I'm going to bring down the exposure just a little so I can see what that looks like. So what I usually will do, and I'll do this because of the way that I shot it, I usually bring down the exposure, but I might bring up the shadows just a little bit because I have dark hair. And sometimes it could just look like a big blob of like shadow. So I like to bring up the shadows and the blacks if I can, just to bring some contrast into the hair until I get my highlights done. Now the next thing that I like to do is I bump up the clarity a little bit. This just adds a little bit of sharpness around there, just a little bit. But then I bring down the texture, and this just kind of gives things like a painterly feel. So let me go back here. So this is what it was like, and then if I just do this, it just brings it into like a bit more of a painterly vibe with that green, which I love. And then sometimes, depending on the lighting situation, I will play with the dehaze, which again will just add a bit of contrast, or it'll brighten things up a bit. So I think it plays with like the gamma levels or whatever. I'm not quite certain about that. But anyways, I kind of dig this. Now the one thing that I'm missing from this though is the blue backdrop that I love so much here. I like the way that this has impacted that. But when I was shooting this, I was thinking more of a cool tones. So the light and ochre kit or presets come with a tool set, and this is where it gets really awesome. So the first one is called Australian Vivianite, which I'm assuming is some sort of rock or something. But look at that. Immediately brings the blues back. And I was just hovering over it. That's it. But my skin tone keeps that nice luminous effect. If you're like, well, that's still a bit blue if you were doing this, you can, of course, just bump up the warmth a little bit here, but it doesn't take away the blue anymore, which is nice. And again, play around with exposure, and then, of course, I would crop it and get it to where I like it. But that is essentially it. That is my editing. That's how I edit. That's it. That's the end of it. And only now do I use things like the tools, but usually I'm just like a set it and forget it kind of gal. Let's see what these other ones do. Ooh, the Italian green earth is beautiful as well. That kind of brings it makes me feel like Venus in a seashell kind of vibes. I like that. You can see it changes, like watch the background here. It makes it kind of like a jade color. Oh, that's gorgeous. Okay, I think I might use that one a lot. Let's see what else we got. Oh, that one's nice too. Oh, man, they're all so good. And if you are not like me and you don't like mask, you can just put grain mask off and it'll take the grain away. You could correct the lens correction. I don't know what my lens is, so I don't think I need to, but yeah, you could play around with it. But like, isn't that beautiful? So let's go back to what it was. Ta-da! And that's what it looks like after. So yeah, that's that one. Now the other thing I liked, let's play with the black and white. So one thing I like is usually they'll include 1 to 2 black and whites with each preset pack, which I love because black and white will never go to style. But I am digging this one. Let's see what I would do. I would bump up the contrast, bring up those the shadows, bump up the clarity, bring down the texture, maybe open it up a little. Oh, beautiful. A nice clean, what I would call clean, maybe you wouldn't, that's fine. You decide. Black and white. Done. If you're like, ew, too much highlight, that's okay. Just bring things down. Don't freak out. You could try all sorts of different things. You can go super dark and super bright if you like that. Like, sometimes that's a fun look to go with. This reminds me of, like, whose work is that? Ellen von Unwerth's work a little bit. It seems to have a bit of a sepia quality to it, and I'm not upset about it. But I dig this. Like, this is cool. And just for, like, context around the photo itself, how I photographed it, I had a big softbox over here to camera left. It was kind of feathered towards the wall, so that way it would just bounce back into the frame. And then I had, there was a window behind me here. So I was standing, well, I wasn't standing, obviously I'm right here. But my tripod was here, the window was behind the tripod, the softbox was to the left, and just feathering across the imagery to get it to look like this. So that is kind of the approach that I took. Oh, and the light was on a low setting. So it just gives it a little kick. So I can still shoot at like, what, f3.5 because I love a good shallow depth of field. And usually a slower shutter speed. What was it? Yeah, 1/60th of a second. So when the fan blows my hair, it gives it that like wispy kind of blurred effect, which I love immensely. So that is how I lit it. That is how I edit it. And that, my friends, is your editing tutorial for a day using Archipelago presets Light and Ochre, Light and Ochre collection. So I will include the links to the things below so you can go check out the different presets that they offer. I do know that they do have a community on Facebook, which I'll link as well. And in there, if you're toying around with the idea of purchasing presets, I think you can upload like 3 raw files. And they, or even myself, if I'm available to edit the photos, can run them through this process so we can see what your work actually looks like when we apply the presets. So yeah, so that's a really cool thing. You can kind of try before you buy if you wanted to. But you can also check out a bunch of other photographers' amazing work, which is really fun. So come join the community. It's beautiful. It is creative, and it's pretty drama-free 99% of the time, but it's still Facebook, so, you know, you get what you get. All right, so if you have any questions, feel free to drop them in the comments below. And if you want to see more editing stuff, like I said, it's really just that. But if you want to just sit and watch me do this kind of stuff, absolutely let me know, and I'll throw some more videos together because I do self-portraits, you know, a few times a week, and constantly have content to work with. So let me know. All right, love you lots. Bye.